think you should.
McCree is totally busted, the most OP hero in the game, and you cannot fail to reach top 500 if you play him this season. Okay, maybe nothing that crazy, but honestly, McCree is not only meta again, but I might go ahead and say he's actually pretty powerful. Definitely not overpowered, because he does require a lot of skill to use. However, if you have that skill, I'm starting to see a new one-trick hero in the works right now, because McCree, well, let's just talk about why he's so good right now. We're also going to touch on Road Hog and Reaper a little bit more near the end of the video. For now, let's actually ignore the patch that McCree is receiving his buffs. His buffs are like the icing on the cake. That's not why he's powerful, it just helps a little bit. He's actually becoming powerful for a few other reasons, and the big two, in my opinion, I think, are Pharah and Tracer. Both of these heroes tear up the competitive scene. The solo carry potential of Tracer, as well as the duo carry potential of Pharah and Mercy, is kind of unrivaled in the game right now. But McCree counters them both. A simple flashbang to Tracer and a headshot will kill her, and good aim will kill Pharah. Granted, she will be with a Mercy, so what I like to do as McCree is either wait for the Mercy to switch to damage boost or focus on a different target. Once the Mercy isn't healing the Pharah, if you have good enough aim, you can take out the Pharah before she switches back to heals in time, or before the Mercy even realizes Pharah was taking damage. The thing with these counters, though, is they both require skill. Good Tracers are going to try to bait out your flashbang, and that's really the only thing you have against them. Sure, you can aim really well and land a headshot and a body shot to kill the Tracer, but that's going to be pretty difficult to do. So making sure you land that initial flashbang is going to be good. Don't let her bait it out with a recall or a blink. It's actually okay sometimes if you bait it out with a recall, because that has a longer cooldown than your flashbang. It really depends on the situation there. But the point is, McCree is going to take skill. The same with Pharah, where you need to land your shots. If you're landing every other shot and you're landing body shots, Pharah Mercy is going to be impossible to kill. So I would say right now, before the McCree buffs go live, McCree is in a place where he can hold his own if you're good with him. He's not OP by any means. I do not believe that for a second, but he's got the tools in his kit right now to be pretty competitive in the meta. Now let's talk about the upcoming changes to the meta that really are the icing on top of this cowboy cake. So in the latest patch, McCree's ultimate Deadeye has been changed to where it locks on faster at the beginning, which I could go into depth explaining, but you could also just watch my video on the patch notes if you really want to know how it works. Just know the basics of it are McCree's ultimate can now lock on a little bit faster in the beginning, which means you can kind of use it as a sort of assassination Deadeye. Before, it felt like you had to hold Deadeye for at least 10 minutes before you could actually deal any significant damage to someone. Now, you can pull Deadeye and you'll probably lock 2 low HP targets or squish your targets pretty quickly, and then you can pull it in maybe a second and a half or 2 seconds and really get those kills quickly and get back to your main fire mode, your Peacekeeper, which is more powerful than your ultimate. I can't stress enough how great of a tool this will be for stopping super aggressive pushes that don't start right on top of you. It won't be the best against dive comp unless you're in a good position, in which case it can be, but what it will do is allow McCree to start off a fight with an advantage for his team. If you wait for a lower HP target, someone that isn't a tank, or someone that has actually been hit a few times and is low on HP, if you wait for them to move away from their Reinhardt or their healers, or into any position where they're open and vulnerable for at least a second, you can probably take them out with a new Deadeye. And even one person being taken out at the beginning of a fight, if you do it fast enough, is going to help you greatly. On top of this, Road Hog has been nerfed. Realistically, he's actually just been changed, but functionally, Road Hog feels worse than before because he can't one-shot people nearly as easily, which means there will be a larger amount of lower HP heroes around than there were before if the enemy team is running a Road Hog. I can't tell you the amount of times a good Road Hog forced me off of a pick I thought went well because he would just one-shot me. Now that won't happen nearly as much. In fact, there's a lot of DPS heroes that aren't even one-shot one-shot by Road Hog anymore, let alone tanks. And DPS heroes, in my opinion, all kind of lose to McCree. It sounds ridiculous, but put McCree in a 1v1 against any DPS hero, and he wins most of them if both players are equally skilled. Now, obviously, it's going to vary depending on the situation, the distance, you know, all these other things, but I'm just saying that McCree is a very solid pick when you're trying to kill squishier targets. He's even pretty good at taking out tanks, and now that he's been buffed and the meta is kind of in his favor, I can't see him being a bad pick anymore. Tell me what you think down below. For now, let's move on to the other two heroes that received changes, Reaper and Road Hog. Starting with Reaper, I'm going to go ahead and say I don't think Reaper is that much better. His problem before was never his sustain. His lifesteal wasn't a big deal, and while it's cool that he does lifesteal now, it's not very functional or practical. Reaper's big problem is a lack of mobility, which means a lack of a way to close the gap on enemies, which means no good way to really use his shotguns other than ambushing people. But his kit doesn't fit an ambush style hero. When he tries to teleport, everyone knows where he was going because he announces it, and if he uses his Wraith form to get into a good ambush position, well, he's screwed. He's just gonna die the moment he gets a single kill because he has no escape. So giving him lifesteal, while that is great and all, and it makes him definitely better against tanks, it makes him niche at best. The lifesteal is pretty useless against lower HP targets. You don't get like any from non-tanks, and against tanks it's pretty good, yes, especially Road Hog because of his nerfs, but you're not going to see Road Hog as much anymore, and the tanks aren't that big of a deal when you have a good soldier or a McCree on your team. They can both deal a lot of damage to tanks from farther away, from a safer position. So I'm going to go ahead and say Reaper is going to be a niche pick on certain situations and maps, and could combo well with Ana, given that his lifesteal does apply to his ultimate, and Ana will increase his lifesteal by increasing his damage, and also give him damage resistance, which is a pretty crazy combo. That will work pretty well, but other than that, Reaper is going to be the same Reaper we knew before, too niche to really see a lot of play. As far as Road Hog goes, I'm not going to give you my opinion on whether or not the changes are good for the game, but I know for a fact they're bad for Road Hog. There was actually some good logic behind Road Hog's changes. I don't know if this patch, though, really fully solved the problem. The logic was Road Hog should be able to pull people that are out of position and punish them for it, but he does so too effectively. He doesn't even have to be pulling someone out of position. He can basically pull people that are in a perfectly fine position and insta-kill them. So what they did was they changed it. Now when you pull someone, you have to rely on your team to help you get the kill. This definitely makes Road Hog worse in competitive play. Maybe not at like pro scene because they work together as a team, but in competitive, lots of people don't play like a team. You play like a solo player who just wants to get kills, and that kind of works, or at least it used to on Road Hog, and now it doesn't. In theory, you can still one-shot most of the DPS heroes, or most of the non-tank heroes, but in practice, when it's a little bit hectic, if you even aim a little bit off, some pellets will miss, and you won't be able to kill them even with a hook-shot melee combo. Basically, in Overwatch, whenever a hero is made less of a solo carry and less of a solo killer and more into a team player style hero, they're gonna get worse in competitive for you and me, because we don't play at the highest level, we aren't pros, and we can't utilize that team play to the maximum benefit. So in essence, Road Hog is gonna be worse now. Now whether or not that's a good change for the game is up for you to decide. For him though, it's bad. Tell me what you guys think down below, what you're excited for in the newest patch, and if you think there are any other OP heroes, I'd love to hear it. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my last one where we talk about whether or not you might play better and have a higher win rate without team comms, you know, not talking to your team. There are some players that actually benefit from it, and a lot of people actually agreed with me. So check that out. It's a pretty interesting video in my opinion. Now see you guys all later. Have a good one. Lone Hawk out.